Jerusalem, Jerusalem. In our special relationship to Jerusalem, we members of the order are offered a special relationship with Jesus. What love Jesus had for that city. Let us consider the final hour of his earthly life. For the last time, Jesus enters Jerusalem. The palm fronds celebrating his ecstatic welcome still line the hillside road, and for a solitary, poignant moment as he enters, he stops. If only you had known, Jerusalem, if only you had known the time, this time of your visitation. And he weeps. Like every faithful Jew, he loved that holy city. And though he has yet not to bring into view his beloved temple in the distance, he's stirred with emotion and its beauty, its history, its symbolism. For his father had chosen Jerusalem as his city and loved its very stones. Century after century, God sent prophets to offer peace to Jerusalem, but his warnings fell on deaf ears. Now his patience has run out. Yes, even God's patience can be exhausted. And the Father sends the final prophet, his son, his only son, and that son weeps. On an earlier visit to Jerusalem, we hear Jesus' lament even more poignantly. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to it. How often have I desired to gather your children together as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, and you were not willing. What love Jesus had for his city. And how short-sighted would we be were we not to realize that he still loves Jerusalem with that same human tenderness, yes, with that same pathos that was his when he wept over it. He had walked that land, taught in its temples and synagogues, poured out his heart and all his energies to heal illness, to preach peace, and to offer hope to those poorest and most hopeless kindred of his. And does he not weep for them still? His love continues today for that city and its people, a city and people he still considers to be his own. And does he not continue to love that land and yearn to bring relief to the tens of thousands who still suffer there? May I suggest to you members of our order that it is this Christ's very love for his land that today is breathing graces into your hearts to love that land and those people passionately, a land and a people whom he loves passionately as well. And is it not his grace from heaven that should prompt us to weep, and more than figuratively, over that city and his people's chosen land? When we become aware of the persecutions, the denial of human rights, the hatreds, the plottings, the betrayals, and even the killings that beg a civil world's response, and how little response there continues to be. Brothers and sisters of our order, dig deep into your heart's imagination to see, to realize that it is Jesus who inspires and encourages our mission today. And the symbols, as important, as central as they are to today's ceremony and to our identity, the mantle, the veil, the spurs, the sword, lay them aside mentally, if only for a moment, and ask the Lord to help us experience his divine grace to encourage us, new members and old, to a deeper personal holiness and a renewed commitment to his land and his people. And this Eucharist, indeed every Eucharist, will help us do just that. As the risen Jesus again pours his life, his body and blood into us. St. John Paul II said of the Lord's death and resurrection on Calvary, that sacrifice is so decisive for the salvation of the human race that Jesus Christ offered it and returned to his Father only after he had left us a means of sharing in it, as if we had been present there. And that is what the Eucharist is, as if we are present at the death and resurrection of Calvary. When we offer the Mass on this day, we enter God's world, a sacramental world which abolishes time and space and draws us into the very action of the death and resurrection of Christ, as if, says St. John Paul, we had been there as it was taking place. And for us who are uniquely dedicated to that place, Jerusalem and the Holy Sepulchre, may this Mass serve as a sacramental pilgrimage to Calvary. As we make our pilgrimage, let us do so and be no doubt that Christ, who then wept over Jerusalem, is pleased and indeed takes joy in what we do to keep his presence alive in that city and land which he loves so much.